Hi. Okay, we found global warming to be the longest term rise in the average temperature of the Earth's climate system. It is a major aspect of climate change and has been demonstrated by direct temperature measurements and by measurements of various effects on the warming. So many people probably ask the question, why do people deny the science of climate change? And it is mostly because of ideology. Instead of negotiating over climate change policies and trying to make them more market-oriented, some political conservatives have taken the approach of blocking them by trying to undermine the science. An example of this is President Trump has sometimes claimed that scientists are engaged in a worldwide hoax to fool the public, or that global warming was invented by China to disable American industry. Many people put both trust and faith in our president, not for who he is, but because of his title and power, and go along with his idea of global warming and climate change, not even taking the time to weigh their own opinions. New York Times is also a highly recognized source as well, so when people write articles on their own views, because of the reliability of the source, people put trust in the information that is true to the greatest extent.
When the scientific community all agree on something climate change, for example, the rest of us generally feel like we can believe them. The scientific community works to investigate and falsify each other's findings, to look for any mistakes and correct them so that they can come to a conclusion on what explanations make the most sense. Because scientists have spent years and years studying and learning and have gone into a deeper dive into the subject, they've become experts in their field, and so we as ordinary people who don't know as much about science as them are more compelled to agree with what they say since we don't know enough to refute them.
You can think of global warming as one type of climate change. The broader term covers changes beyond warmer temperatures, such as shifting rainfall patterns. President Donald Trump has claimed that scientists stopped referring to global warming and started calling it climate change because the weather has been so cold in the winter. But the claim is false. Scientists have used both terms for decades. Both are accurate, but they mean different things.
Language has a large influence on our views about climate change, as political parties can use language to emphasize their beliefs on the legitimacy of climate change through the use of dramatic language, and that can sway our opinions, and more than one side can be accurate.
Our personal perspectives could also influence how we believe in the credibility of scientific explanations involving global warming because of our different experiences. For example, there seems to be different beliefs in climate change based off a generational gap. Those who are older tend to not be as open to the idea that humans can have the ability to alter something so big as the planet's climate. The older generations tend to reference the Bible more and be less likely to believe that humans can do something so drastic, while the youth are more open-minded and informed in how we may have contributed to global warming.
Emotion plays into our understanding and acceptance of global warming with its relationship to us. For example, the acceptance of global warming for many requires the acknowledgement of their role in it. This creates a moral conflict for some. Knowing that the problem exists would require them to take action in their own lives. Another way that emotion plays into this is the relation that climate has on some people. Living closer to an area where they might be more affected by climate change or being reliant on the land around you also causes more people to be connected to climate change as opposed to some.
In TOK we learn a lot about faith and truth, and in terms of truth, if we want to have faithfulness and truth, in terms of TOK, let me read the definition. So truth is the quality or state of being true, and as an area of knowing, faith comes to people very naturally. It can be a family thing, but to have faith in truth is hard sometimes because science for climate change is extremely complicated, and a lot of the denial comes from that complication. But obviously, if you're looking at the facts from scientists, it's very easy to have faithfulness and truth. Thank you.
And the consumers and the scientists, like, both perspectives are both really different. And as it says here, the United Nations International Government Panel on Climate Change said that that it's extremely likely that human activity has been the dominant cause of the rapid warming seen this time, and that climate change poses significant challenges for our way of life on Earth.
So one of the major problems with the reason why we can't, or we're having difficulty reversing climate change is because countries that are more developed and have a lot of power are putting the blame on less developed countries who don't have the resources and ability to change their way of fueling their country yet. So instead of making a change from a first world country, they're blaming the